what to do with that for a very long time. I still don't know what to do with it.
I can tell.
But it's there.
Yeah. And I appreciate, by the way, your stated, as you said when you were talking about it, reluctance to even bring it up. Because do we want to give this stuff air? Do we want to make that guy famous who's actually guiding J.D. Vance's thinking, which is also stunningly weird that his nutty stuff, is it better that his nutty stuff isn't original? Is that better? Or is it,
because you got it from your guru who wants a CEO, which he admits is a dictator, and then you use all of his weird terminology. You use all of his weird terms. Oh, we're in a late Republican period, knowing that everybody who's clued into this guy will know exactly what you're talking about. If that means that you're rooting for Caesar, the dictator, to come. I mean, it's so weird. It's so like buried in the YouTube comments, like deep Linux chat room nonsense. And it's apparently it's really close to getting into the White House.
So I'm going to do a couple of things. When that segment gets posted online on social media, I'm going to, retweet it and cycle it as best I can. And when I go home tonight, I'm going to watch it again. Because I wasn't taking notes. I was standing in the hallway, Rachel. There's that TV at the corner there near the elevators. I was just standing there at that elevator, staring at you, reporting this stuff to me. I
will dump all of my tabs. I will send you all of my open tabs on this stuff so you can check all my work.
So, hey, before you go, quick question. If you had a wicked famous uncle who was certifiably insane and dangerous, would you become a clinical psychologist?
As like self-defense for your soul? Maybe.
Well, because that's what Mary Trump did. And she is going to join us later in this hour with a new book about her family, where I learned so much new stuff about her grandfather, Donald Trump's father, and how Donald Trump became Donald Trump. And she's going to join us with that later in the hour.
Thank you, Lawrence. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you. Well, the stock market closed at another record all-time high today. 4 years after Donald Trump said this in a presidential debate, a debate that he lost to Joe Biden.
If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Now, normally, we don't adjudicate predictions to be lies, but that prediction was so ridiculous on its face at that time that it really can be scored as a lie. Donald Trump knew he was lying when he made up that crazy statement, the stock market will crash. There will be lies. There will be lies in tomorrow night's vice presidential debate, and CBS News, the host of the debate, has decided to guarantee that those lies are delivered directly to you at home without any interference at all from CBS News. CBS News has ordered the moderators not to fact-check anything J.D. Vance says. And you know that no fact-checking rule, which comes from no journalistic principle whatsoever, was put in place by CBS News to please the Republican Party and the Republican campaign, because the Republican campaign lies every day nonstop. When one of the people on the Trump-Vance ticket is speaking, lies are always flowing, always. Even now when it comes to disaster relief, hurricane relief, which used to be a completely nonpartisan subject that no one ever lied about. Donald Trump even lies about that.
Go for it, Stephanie. Where's that coming from? Do you have any evidence for that, Mr. President?
Donald Trump lied about the Republican governor of Georgia not being able to get help from President Biden after the hurricane passing through Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia, and the Carolinas killed 132 people and spread severe property damage and flooding to 6 states.
We do need some help from the federal government. They have to get together, ideally with the governor. The governor needs to, he's been trying to get them, and I'm sure they're going to come through. But he's been calling the president, hasn't been able to get him. But they'll come through, I'm sure.
Now, usually Donald Trump, when he's lying about the Republican governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, he is attacking Brian Kemp for not helping him overturn the presidential election in Georgia.
You know Hulk Hogan's place on the beach got hit pretty bad?
Yesterday, but
No, he hasn't.
in the show. He hasn't.
Here's what Georgia's governor, Brian Kemp, said publicly to everyone, including Donald Trump's campaign staff. Everybody heard this before Donald Trump started lying about him today.
The president just called me yesterday afternoon. I missed him and called him right back. And he just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, you know, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that.
And here's what President Biden had to say about Donald Trump lying about how helpful President Biden has been to the governors dealing with this crisis.
Mr. President and Governor Cooper, Donald Trump has accused both of you of ignoring the disaster.
He is lying. Let me get this straight. He's lying. And the governor told him he was lying. The governor told me he was lying. I've spoken to the governor, spending time with him, and he told me he's lying. I don't know why he does this. And the reason I get so angry about it, I don't care about what he says about me, but I care what he communicates to the people that are in need. He implies that we're not doing everything possible. We are. And you spoke to the governor. I assume you heard the Republican governor of Georgia talk about that he was on the phone with me more than once. So that's simply not true, and it's irresponsible.
President Biden explained to the people in the region that he would not visit the scene until later this week because he doesn't want resources diverted away from helping people in order to provide security for his visit.
But I'm going to North Carolina on Wednesday, it's planned now. We're going to be landing in Raleigh for a briefing with the Emergency Operations Center, and I'll then do an aerial tour of Asheville. It's too much for me in terms of interrupting access to help there to land and to survey the damage other through the air. And then it's my plan to travel to Georgia and Florida as soon as possible after that.
Vice President Harris canceled her campaigning in Nevada to rush back to Washington. And she said this at FEMA's headquarters in Washington this afternoon.
Over the last couple of days, I have received regular briefings on the impact of Hurricane Helene, including from Administrator Criswell. And over the past 24 hours, I have spoken with Governor Kemp of Georgia, Governor Cooper of North Carolina, and many local officials. I have shared with them that we will do everything in our power to help communities respond and recover. And I've shared with them that I plan to be on the ground as soon as possible, but as soon as possible without disrupting any emergency response operations, because that must be the highest priority in the first order of business. So far, more than 3,300 federal personnel are on the ground to assist with recovery efforts. They are deploying food, water, and generators. And we continue to work with teams on the ground to restore water and power as quickly as possible. You all do that work around the clock as though these are your family members. I know how you work, and I know how hard you work. So I am here mostly to thank you all for all that you do. To all of those of you who are rightly feeling overwhelmed by the destruction and the loss, our nation is with you. And President Biden and I and all of the folks behind me are with you. We will continue to do everything we can to help you recover and to help you rebuild, no matter how long it takes.
Kamala Harris picked up some important endorsements for her candidacy from the New York Times and the New Yorker magazine, and another Republican endorsement, this time from former Arizona Republican Senator Jeff Flake.
I'm a conservative Republican who had the honor to serve my home state of Arizona in the United States House of Representatives and in the Senate for nearly 2 decades. I believe that America is a great country. I believe that our best days lie ahead. I want to support a candidate for president who believes the same. I believe that we don't have to agree on every issue or policy, but that we should use the political process created by our founders to debate and to persuade, not disparage or demonize. I want to support a candidate who understands that political opponents are our fellow citizens, the loyal opposition as our parties once knew each other, not the enemy. Having spent the past 3 years overseas as a United States ambassador, I've seen up close that we have very real enemies abroad. We also have vital and indispensable allies. I want to support a presidential candidate who understands and appreciates the difference. I believe in our constitutional system and in the rule of law. And I want to support a candidate who respects the will of the voters and would never attempt to use the powers of the presidency to overturn an election after having been turned out by the voters. Finally, I want to support a presidential candidate who seeks to unite our country rather than one who divides us. One who represents the ideals of a new generation of leadership based not on grievances of the past, but hope for the future. For all of these reasons, I'll be supporting Kamala Harris for president and Tim Walz for vice president. I've served with Kamala in the United States Senate. I've also served with Tim in the United States House of Representatives. I know them. I know firsthand of their fine character and their love of country. I would encourage all Republicans who feel this way to do the same. After all, in times like these, there is nothing more conservative than putting country over party.
This week's New Yorker presents Kamala Harris on the cover and delivers the magazine's endorsement of her candidacy by first making the negative case against Donald Trump. Quote, "The threat to the country's future, to its rule of law and its democratic institutions, its security and its character resides not in a foreign capital, but at a 20-acre Xanadu on the Florida coast. For 9 years, Donald Trump has represented an ongoing assault on the stability, the nerves, and the nature of the United States. His narcissism and casual cruelty, his contempt for the truth have contaminated public life." The New Yorker chronicled Trump's madness, from the criminal attempt to overthrow an election to the social media rant, "I hate Taylor Swift." And then the New Yorker says, quote, "Trump is a menacing presence in American life, and most of his former associates know it now. Of his 42 former cabinet secretaries, only half have endorsed him. More than 200 staffers for 4 previous Republican presidents and presidential candidates have endorsed the Democratic ticket." The New Yorker says the choice is stark. The United States simply cannot endure another 4 years of Donald Trump. He is an agent of chaos, an enemy of liberal democracy, and a threat to America's moral standing in the world. Kamala Harris, who has shown herself to be sensible, humane, and liberal-minded, is our choice for the presidency. The New York Times editorial endorsing Kamala Harris is titled, "The Only Patriotic Choice for President." The editorial begins, quote, "It is hard to imagine a candidate more unworthy to serve as president of the United States than Donald Trump. He has proved himself morally unfit for an office that asks its occupant to put the good of the nation above self-interest.